If we were meeting someone for the very first time who was just now starting to get a whiff that they wanted to be the deliberate creator of their own life experience and had just an inkling of an idea that it could be, this is the story that we would tell to them that we think would be the easiest for someone like that to hear. You're more than you know, but you've probably suspected that for a long time. But I mean, no, you are really, 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 really different than you know yourself to be. You're so much smarter and so much wiser, and you have so much more that you deserve. You have so much vibrational credentials and stuff saved up for you. There is so much good that you are entitled to. There is so much well-being that you were born knowing was yours. It's a legacy, it's gifts, it's a legacy of well-being that is huge. And I know you don't know it. I know you don't know it very well because things around you have made you think otherwise, but I know this about you. So if I were standing in your physical shoes, we would say to them, if we were standing in your physical shoes, if I were standing in your physical shoes, I would let myself hope for outrageously wonderful things to come to me. And I would test the universe. I would say, universe, if I'm so good, show me. If I'm so worthy, show me. Not if I'm so bad, make it better. That's the opposite. That doesn't work. If I'm so good, show me. If I am a blessed being, then let the blessings start pouring into my experience. If I'm wise, let me be smart. If I'm blessed, then I want to be happy. This is a story that we would tell to them. You just got to play this game a little bit differently than you've been playing it. And just the slightest little shift in understanding who you are. Now, people come to a gathering like this, and Esther gives herself over to us and allows herself to express the vibration through words that we are emitting to her in a close to flawless way. She rarely requires a let's start that over again. Usually these days she's getting it right where we mean it to be in the first words out of her mouth. And so those like you listen with varying degrees of interest or opinions about it. But for some, Esther appears to be someone really sure of herself and clearly thriving and happy, who is expressing maybe opinions just like a whole lot of people on the planet are expressing opinions, and offering some processes or some ways of looking at things that in most cases, like with most people, you could take or leave. And we get that because words don't teach. But we also know that as you listen and allow yourself to calibrate to who you really are, to that greater knowing, to that eternal knowing, and if you pick something up like, well, I think I'll meditate, I think I'll quiet my mind, I think I will just focus on the air conditioner for a little bit and see what happens, and see if I can feel some vibration moving within me, and see if I can feel any movement in my physical body. Maybe I'll just meditate and see what happens with that. And maybe I will segment and tend, maybe I will get out ahead of it just a little bit. So you do some exercises that cause you to release resistance, and when you do that, your vibration rises. And when your vibration rises, now you are in perfect concert with the flow of who you really are. And now your valve is wide open, and now what your inner being knows about this and that and this and that and this and that is known by you. So you find yourself daydreaming something, you find yourself having a thought about something, and you follow the thread of that good feeling thought, and then something happens. A result from that changed thought is noticed by you. So now this isn't just theory, it just isn't somebody else's opinion. This is you. This is you deliberately releasing resistance, and you deliberately raising vibration. And this is you experiencing the result of that. And now you know. You never go back from that knowing. It doesn't mean you apply it every time. It doesn't mean that you get it right where you want it to be the first crack of every box. That's not what we mean at all. But it does mean you have the knowledge of how it works because you have shown it to yourself. You've had negative thoughts and negative emotions, and you've seen where it's gone. You've deliberately found positive thoughts and positive emotions, and you've seen where it's gone. You are empowered with these laws of the universe, and you are supported by an enormous non-physical contingency that is there for you every time in every moment. So much so that as you begin moving through life with this deliberate intent, your moments are so full of this insight and this insight and this insight and this insight. It's not up and down and all around. It's not mostly bad and occasionally good. It's good and good and good and good. It's clear. It's fun. It's more. It's exhilarating. It's life. You get hooked on that, you see. It doesn't take very much for you to come back to who you really are. And you know why? Because you, as you came into this experience, were calibrated to your goodness. You were calibrated to source energy. You are calibrated to love. You're calibrated to well-being. That's your natural default position. That's who you are. That's what you're calibrated to. And this other stuff you've learned along your physical trail does not mean diddly squat in comparison with that. It's easy to hook into that, and it's easy to maintain it now that you know what you know.
Okay, which of the millions of things that all these amazing conversations have been
not millions of things, it's millions of examples of just a handful of things.
Yeah,
it's just lots of examples of a few things that could be slightly adjusted and make a huge difference.
Do you know better than I do at this moment which one that is?
Doesn't matter. We just want to put that in context because you all are making it out like this is a lot of work, and it isn't. A little calibration changes everything. The slightest little adjustment changes everything.
Okay, so one question I have is I hear in the world and about like low emotional set points from early childhood, what do you call this, like contrast?
We would call those beliefs. A belief is just a thought that you continue to think, and it got started somewhere and caught on, and because you believed it, it's your point of attraction, so you attracted things that support it, evidence of it, so then you believe it more. That's all it is.
And how do I undo those beliefs?
It's not undoing. Let's find a different word. If I don't want this, then I do want this. So in every moment that you are calibrated to something unwanted, you are creating something that you do want. So the question isn't how do I do that, because you're doing it without even knowing you're doing it. The question is, then how do I calibrate to what is wanted instead of what isn't wanted? And an obvious human answer would be stop calibrating to what isn't wanted. But the law of attraction and momentum won't let loose of you. So you got to get out ahead of it. How do you get out ahead of it? You got to put some space between the last time you thought that and now. You got to quiet your mind. You got to be nicer to yourself. You got to take a long hot bath. You got to go swim in the ocean. You got to put your feet in the bay. You got to be nice to yourself. You got to do something that feels good to you. You got to maybe seek out somebody that is a good feeling person. Maybe you got to meditate. You got to quiet your mind. You've got to do the work. You've got to use your emotions in the way they are meant to be used. Negative emotion means something's got to change, or it's just going to become more of this. So knowledge is helpful. Understanding that your emotions matter and that they are important and that they are full of good information. But you can't just all of a sudden, when you're tumbling down the ski slope, stop because somebody yelled stop, even if it was you. Stop. Momentum's going to carry you, and you've just got to make peace with that. It's okay. Where I am is okay. I'm doing just fine. I'm on track. I'm an eternal evolver. It will always be true. I will always be in a state of calibration. It's not wrong that I need to calibrate this. It's right. That'd be like a sculptor getting a big pile of clay and splatting it down and then saying, well, that didn't turn out right. And then feeling guilty about trying to shape it. Oh, I don't think I'm supposed to touch it. I don't think I'm supposed to shape it. Isn't it the way it was supposed to be? Shouldn't I have just got it right the first time? Oh, that's ugly. No, you want to get your hands in it. You want to form it to your ever-evolving ideas of how you want it to be. Where you are is beautiful. Where you are, no matter where it is, it's just right. It's just right. You have created something that you might prefer, but be nice to yourself or you're never going to look over there. There are people in our analogy that we offered about being on the train, and over there's the junkyard and over there's the beautiful seacoast. And there are people who believe that it is their lot in life to only look over there. They just don't dare look over there. They've been convinced that this is where they're supposed to look. And we know that sounds extreme. Jerry used to tell the story many, many years before he met Esther. He was an entertainer, traveled city to city with different troops. And he remembers being in Phoenix, Arizona. And the places that they were over in this very, what in his now terminology he would call seedy parts of town. A lot of crime, a lot of all things unwanted, a lot of poverty, a lot of debris. It was the junkyard. And he was comfortable there. It's what he knew. It's what he'd been raised in. That's where he did his work. And then one night some friends said, let's go over to Scottsdale. That's the nice part of town. And he went along and he said he was so uncomfortable. He just wanted to lie on the floor of the car. He felt so out of place being over there because he was trained over here. And then years later, by the time Esther hooked up with him, now they're living in Scottsdale. And that part of town made them uncomfortable. In other words, you have these habits of thoughts, and some of them serve you and some of them don't. But if they don't feel good, they're not serving you. So what do? You don't do it all at once. You care about how you feel. That's the first order of business.